Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Doctor. Welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Dr. James S. Robbins, senior foreign policy editor of the editorial page at the Washington Times, author of This Time We Win. Why is it called This Time We Win? Because that's what vets said to him, people who had served in the Vietnam War, when he referred to the topic of the book, which was the Tet Offensive. This time, do we win? Which is wonderful. James, welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk. How are you?
Hey, Crane. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. Here is Robert Gibbs. Let's just jump right into it. Robert Gibbs talking to Chris Wallace, and Chris Wallace is asking him about the spontaneous attacks that Ambassador Rice said last week. Now, this is senior campaign spokesman Robert Gibbs. That Susan Rice, ambassador to the UN, was a member of the administration. This is the member of the campaign. I'm just drawing that distinction right now. Here is Robert Gibbs trying to explain what did he know, when did they know it, talking about Benghazi and it being a terrorist attack. Roll it.
We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack. The unrest we've seen around the region has been in reaction to a video that many Muslims find offensive.
Again, at the time that he said that, there was plenty of information that it was a pre-planned attack. Susan Collins, the co-chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, said people don't show up to a spontaneous demonstration with RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, and machine guns. Specific question, because this is really the bottom line. Did the Obama administration play down what happened in Libya, what happened in Cairo, because it would make Obama foreign policy look better?
No one intentionally or unintentionally misled anybody involved in this. Absolutely not. Again, that's an answer that the press secretary gave on September the 14th. It's now September the 23rd. We learn more information every single day about what happened. Nobody wants to get to the bottom of this more than we do.
Okay, now, James, you all wrote op-ed piece editorial on the intelligence that they had. So this story was out there through the Washington Times. It took a while for the mainstream media to catch up. That's not Chris Wallace in the mainstream media. That's just inevitably what happens when you have Sunday shows and it goes through the week's news cycle. Question for you. Did they mislead the American people?
I think so. I mean, at the very least, it was spin. But, yeah, at the most, I think that what they wanted to do was not address what was obvious to everybody, that this was a pre-planned attack on our interests by terrorists. And as we later have found out, terrorists linked to al-Qaeda through a Guantanamo detainee who was released. So, I mean, it just starts as a small deception, but then as we learn more, it just becomes greater. And really the question that we have is, what did they know at the time? We know they should have known a lot before the fact. That alone was a deception, like the notion that there was no threat there, and so our ambassador was kind of left to the mercy of the Islamists. But, you know, when all of these things went down, it was being reported almost immediately that this was a planned attack, that it was coordinated, that it had the various hallmarks of planned insurgent activity. But the White House doggedly refused to admit that until it was just overwhelming.
Apparently, and your editorial writer, Brett Decker, wrote Barack blew it in Benghazi. You have editorials, as you talked about, with the intelligence of what they knew and when they knew it. But 3 days before, they were, in fact, warned. Were they not? Yeah,
that was the information that the Libyans were saying. Mm-hmm. We had Libyans on the record in the Libyan transitional government were on the record almost immediately saying, yeah, this was a terrorist attack. We warned you guys it was coming. There wasn't a lot we could do about it and things like that. Even as the administration was clinging to this YouTube video nonsense, and there's absolutely no evidence I've seen that anyone in the Benghazi uprising were there because of a YouTube video. That's more the Cairo thing. Fine, if you want to argue about that. where they desecrated our flag and raised the banner of jihad. But in the Benghazi attack, there was no anti-YouTube rally. It was all a terrorist attack.
If they won't tell us the truth about this, what does that tell us about anything they say? Because the evidence is coming out. This has to deal with the death of 4 American diplomats, specifically one being our ambassador. We haven't had that since 1979. So tell me, have you seen it? Is this normal behavior?
Well, it's kind of normal in an election cycle where they don't want to admit that there's a problem. And the whole basis of putting this all on the YouTube video, which admittedly may have made some people over there angry, but the whole reason why the administration wanted to draw attention to that was to argue, as Jay Carney did in the White House, state specifically that what's going on there has nothing to do with anti-U.S. protest. It's not an anti-Obama protest. It's completely against this YouTube video. That was their opening argument. This has nothing to do with the United States, that it's all about that video. And this was as they were tearing up the American flag, as Mr. Obama was being burned in effigy, as crowds were chanting death to USA. The White House clung to that line. It's just untenable at this point.
Looking at the Gitmo detainee being in charge of the raid, we've released detainees, and a number of them have shown back up attacking us. It has happened in the Bush administration. It did happen in the Bush administration. It continued under the Obama administration. What does that tell us about Gitmo and the importance of keeping those detainees detained?
Well, there's some important things to remember. Number one, most of the people who have ever been held at Gitmo have been released. I think the top number was 700 and something, or almost 800 people were detained there at one time, and now they're down to 300 or 200 or something. I haven't seen the latest numbers. So most of the people were released because either they shouldn't have been there in the first place, and all that happened almost immediately during the Bush administration, or because our people determined that their intelligence value was so low that they got what they got and then let them go. The people who are left now are the hardcore jihadists who are not going to be reformed. They're just going to go back to their old ways. So it's not just a question of will some of them recidivate and go back to terrorism. In particular, the ones that are there now and the ones that the administration is thinking about releasing a third of are the hardest core guys who just will not be at peace with us no matter what.
So bottom line, Gitmo is the place they need to be, and even when we do release them to another country, with a promise that they'll continue to be detained and locked up, we've got to trust but verify on that big time.
It won't matter, as we saw in Yemen, where they were released to the Yemeni government. They held them for a few months, and then they, elicited a promise. You'll be good now, won't you? And they, oh, sure. And then suddenly Yemen is destabilized, and you have Al Qaeda taking over small towns in the hinterland. So probably not a good idea.
President has canceled his meeting with Morsi. What do you know about that, President Morsi of Egypt? And what do you make of the statement that Israel is one of our strongest allies in the region?
Yeah, I just read about the cancellation of the Morsi meeting. I think that's just the pressure of politics. Enough people were mad about it, and the fact that Mr. Obama would not meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, although he would meet with Whoopi Goldberg, he would meet with a guy dressed like a pirate in the White House, for Talk Like a Pirate Day, but he doesn't have time to meet with the Prime Minister of Israel when Israel is facing an existential threat and could go to war with Iran. So canceling the Morsi meeting, I think, is just good politics from the president's point of view, because otherwise it would send a signal to the region that we've gone completely against the Israelis, and it would just be very bad.
In regard to the statement that last night on the interview, I'd play it, but I don't want to take up our time. I'll just refer to it. One of our greatest allies, strongest allies in the region, is Israel. One of. I'm curious, who's on the same level in that region as Israel?
Well, I don't know who he's referring to. Saudi Arabia, maybe. I'm just not sure, but at least he called them an ally, because maybe he would call them a partner or use some other term for Israel. I kind of look at it as a glass half full on that one. At least he's still calling Israel an ally.
Well, I mean, I think as a student in high school, I would have really liked you because you would have set that bar just low enough that I could get by the class and wouldn't have flagged me. Tell me something, Jim. You've called what's happening right now. You've called it out a year ago in a book TV discussion. You talked about what was happening and how it's devolving right now. Where do you see this going without President Obama changing direction rather dramatically? Where do you see all this going in the Middle East, North Africa?
Well, no place good. I think that Egypt is going to abrogate its peace treaty with Israel, the treaty that's kept the peace for almost 30-plus years, and that'll be very bad. I think the Iranians are going to continue to pursue nuclear weapons capability no matter what, and even if Israel strikes them, they will still pursue it. And I see other countries in the region looking to their own nuclear programs because they know that the United States is going to be too weak to stop all this. And more Islamist uprisings and takeovers in countries that used to be safe and fairly progressive in terms of westernizing, like Morocco, for example, or Algeria. So just bad things ahead.
Bad things ahead. James S. Robbins, doctor, has spoken, and he's been right in the past. Unfortunately, he doesn't want to be right, but he is right. Washington Times editorial page, Foreign Policy. He is the senior editor there. You can check out his work. Also, This Time We Win. He gets history right. Hey, James, thanks, buddy. Great to be with you.
Thank you, Crane.
Take care. All right, on the flip side, Hans von Spakovsky, voter ID, taking it up a notch, a decision in the South Carolina case. Also, what are we seeing out of coordination between Media Matters and the White House? Fast and Furious. What did the report say? We got the highlights. We got the headlines last week. We'll get the rest of the story next. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk.